and welcome to the SmackDown review. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture, joined by another one of Dudley Boys, Michael Sidgwick from WhatCulture, here to review everything that happened on this weekend's episode of Friday Night SmackDown. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we not only review SmackDown, but also the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a roundup of the week, complete with a good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. As I said, though, joined by Michael Sidgwick to review this week's episode of Friday Night SmackDown. More cinema from the Fed.
It was absolutely diabolical, this show.
I really enjoyed this show.
No, he didn't. I'm sure the same thing happens on the show every single week in some form or another.
What's this?
And all the same programs, the same segments, the same slop.
You could almost say greatness echoes greatness, couldn't you?
No, he couldn't say that. Well, you could. I would certainly not. A nothing show. You can tell they're moving networks. You can absolutely tell they're moving networks, and it's the riddle. Is that the same?
The SmackDown riddle.
Yeah, shut up, man.
Oh, I'll not do it.
No, do it. I need the button now.
Okay, sorry. The SmackDown riddle.
I feel nothing for the SmackDown riddle. The clue to the riddle is that basically they're just spinning their wheels. They're spinning the old wheels, and the same stuff seems to be happening. The characters are in a lot of the same spots that they were. Like, how long ago was Money in the... How long... I'll try not to swear as much. How long ago was Money in the Bank?
Money in the Bank 2024 was the 7th of July. The Scotia Wank Arena.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't that... There's just things that are still going on from there. There's something that was like the Cody versus Solo thing. You left, and now it's back for some reason.
It's back so Roman can come on the season debut on USA.
Yeah. Look, I thought the show was bad.
I should say.
Season premiere. Yeah, I watched this, as I had to rewind this. It just evaporates in front of me because it's just such a miasma. It's such a blur of, I've seen this. They don't seem to care. They're spinning their wheels ahead of the premiere. So I had to take some notes.
Oh.
So basically, if you see my phone coming out, I don't usually take notes. I usually just spitball. But there were some things I felt were important to note down. Otherwise, I'd just forget. Otherwise, I would simply forget. Just happy to let those sights and sounds leave my brain.
I will say there will be one point in the show where I will agree with you, but we'll get into that. The show opened with, a recap of Bash in Berlin, and then Cody Rhodes came out, huge reaction as always for him, asking Edmonton, what do you girls want to talk about?
What's that?
Just the way things evolve really on this podcast, mate. Get used to it.
This part-timer actually shows up for work once in a goddamn while. I will not have to get used to it.
When was his last full week, do you reckon?
Oh, God, I don't know. 2018?
So he points out how
to be fair, it's some kind of teacher training day.
Yes. You're right, though. It's an extremely large crowd in Edmonton. And he recognised Canada's own Kevin Owens, had a hell of a match with him at Bash in Berlin. He welcomed Michael Cole back to SmackDown, and crowd chants his name. He says, I could go on, but we know how this works. I'm going to get interrupted. Out you come, the bloodline, and here they come, of course. Solo Sikoa asked Cody if he's done playing around. The crowd are chanting, we want Roman. And he said, are you ready to defend your title against a real challenger? We all know that I would have been champion. I had you beat at SummerSlam, he says, but Roman Reigns got in the way, so I deserve a rematch. And Cody says, look, on the season premiere of SmackDown next week, there should be an undisputed WWE Championship match, and it should be the person who stepped out of Reigns' shadow. I'm not talking to you, Solo, though, he says. I'm talking to Jacob Fatu. And I thought, hello.
Hell yeah.
Tells Fatu to step up. Crowd chant the same. But Sikoa mouths something to him, and he gets up on the apron, does Jacob, and shouts that he loves Sikoa and that he is his tribal chief. And he jumps back down. The crowd boo. And Rhodes says, well, it was worth a shot. He says, look, you're wearing the red lei. That means the bloodline revolves around you from now. The difference is, though, I'm wearing this, the WWE title, and that means everything in this revolves around me. Of course, the bloodline, rest of them jump in the ring. Solo was already in there with Cody. Surround him. It looks like he's going to get another beat down. But DIY and the Street Profits make the save. And then the SmackDown GM, can't remember what his name is, jumps up into the ring, tells everyone, calm down, and sets up the already established 8-man tag for the main event later. We'll save it for then. But he confirms next week is going to be Cody versus Solo for the Undisputed WWE Championship. But as is best for business, this is going to be a steel cage. I'm so excited. I haven't seen a great steel cage match in ages.
He's such an arsehole. He goes, I don't even care. I'm not selling it. Right, let me just get my notes. Let me get my notes real quick. What have I written here? Here I am. Solo stinks. It's a note I've written, isn't it?
Yes. I like Solo. I like the role he's playing.
Nobody else does, because I've written down here, Solo, before he says, does he say something to the effect of, I agree, but not tonight? Because he says, and I've written down, so it did happen, you're on. No reaction, like no pop whatsoever. I've written down here, niche pop. Niche meaning no pop whatsoever. Did he cover the fact that Aldis came out just then?
Yeah, I can't remember what SmackDown GM's name was. Thanks for reminding me.
It's Nick Aldis. Oh, sorry, I've ruined the bit on SmackDown. Right.
My queen.
Sorry, this is a big white square, which is a great substitute for Michael Hamflett's head. So let me just do this, right? It's got Aldis and so much more.
Yay!
Right. There we go. That's the white square head. That's Hamflett's head. Right. So I've written down on my notes, you're on. Niche pop. Aldis coming out. Every TV opening ever.
No, because they didn't fight. He saved it for later. So not necessarily.
Did he make the main event or was it scheduled?
It was already scheduled.
Well, it's almost like every... If anything, it's worse, if anything, because you take the poor man's attempt at spontaneity out of it, you just remind the viewers at home.
He says, guys, keep it in your pants till the main event of the night. That's what he says. So excited to see this later on. We'll get into it when we get there.
Revolutionary television from Paul Levesque.
Backstage, Pretty Deadly there with Tiffany Stratton, and oh my god, we might get Pretty Deadly the musical next week. We will be previewing that on Friday, of course. Are you going to do that? Or do you want to okay.
I mean,
my queen walks in, Queen Nia, and says,
you get to press your little cinema button and do Nia voices. Is this why you like SmackDown?
Along with a multitude of other reasons, as we'll get into.
Okay.
She says, couldn't help but notice, and everyone's talking about the fact that it looked like you were going to cash in on me last week. Tiffany's like, no, that's bloody Chelsea Green, spreading all those rumours. I'd never lie to you. And she says, do you want to be in my corner tonight when I face Bayley? And Nia says, I will. I'll be there for you, just like you were for me. And then we got Bayley back in action. Great to see her back in the ring against Tiffany Stratton. Bayley's in control early on, but she goes up top. Stratton cuts her off, kicks her and hits a basement drop kick on her on the apron to take us to a commercial break. When we come back, Stratton's got the upper hand, does that back handspring splash thing that she does. But Bayley clotheslines a bloody head off.
Bayley? Bayley is.
Stratton, though, comes back, takes Bayley into a corner, works on her arm, but Bayley sends Tiff into the ring post, then suplexes her on the outside. They go back in. Bayley hits a clothesline and a belly-to-back suplex, and a running knee gets a 2 count. She goes up top, hits the flying elbow. Good near fall off that. But then out comes the Queen, Nia Jax, without her music. That distracts Bayley. That allows Tiffany to get back into it. She hits an Alabama slam. But Bayley comes back with a Bayley to belly. Stratton rolls to the outside to Nia Jax. So Bayley suicide dives onto Nia. Nia's furious at this, goes at the referee, but as a result of that, the referee was distracted and missed a Stratton roll up on Bayley. She had the match won. By the time the referee turns around, though, Bayley kicks out, hits a rose plant, and gets the 1-2-3.
Yeah, another thing that seems to be going on forever. So Cody and Solo Sikoa has resumed. This has never stopped happening, this Bailey, Nia, Tiffany Stratton stuff?
Bailey's been away for a while.
Okay. Well, okay. I haven't got anything interesting for her to do. Let me refer to my notes. What did I write down for this? I wrote down the following. All caps. Oh, it must have been animated on Saturday morning. Embarrassing slow-mo. I think there's one spot where it seemed to take about 5 seconds to get on the same page and it was wrestled in slow motion. And then I've written subsequent to that. Honestly, not bad beyond that, but this thing is still going on. I've written something else that seems a bit mean, so I will not repeat that here.
Okay. I'm excited for this Tiff cash-in. I'm buzzing for it. We can all see it coming.
We can all see it. That's part of the problem. I think there's no real emotional hook. It's Levesque's booking isn't like often. A lot of times, it's not telling you a necessarily emotional, high stakes story. I guess there's high stakes involved with the title and the briefcase and such, but it feels like shows you or tells you what's happening. The idea being that the fans in attendance go, knew it. He empowers them to feel like they've guessed where it's going, as opposed to telling a storyline that's actually truly emotional. Know what I mean?
I'm emotionally invested in it. I'm
okay, well, you are.
excited.
I'm not, Doug. I'm not. Have I written anything else? No.
Okay. Kevin Owens is backstage with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, talking about local sports teams and stuff. They mock Owens for losing to Cody at Bash in Berlin, and note that he didn't come out to help Cody earlier on in the show. And Owens says, we're fine. And then calls them both idiots. Says, oh, you're supposedly such a great team. Well, why don't we have a triple threat bare knuckle fight later on each show? Waller's like, it's basically going to be a handicap match. We're best mates, we are. And he says, great, so that shouldn't be a problem. See you out there. And he takes their Edmonton Oilers belt that they've got because he says it's too nice for them.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm actually invested in this whole can Austin Theory be a babyface thing. I think there's a chance.
I think
really
it's the longest storyline in wrestling. They've been trying that friggin' often. We'll see.
We get a Legado del Fantasma vignette. They're back at the restaurant place, sharing a drink, celebrating their win. Santos isn't happy, though. He says, what are you celebrating for? Your win didn't involve titles. That's not success. Don't just be happy merely with that. But we make our own success, and he seems like he's got a plan, and they all cheers. I love Santos in this group, so I hope that they finally
a cool
get
guy.
a bit of a push off the back of this. Right, let's get to the point that everyone's been talking about. It was time for the re-debut, I suppose, of one Giovanni Vinci. First of all, no flashbulb model entrance freeze frame thing. Disappointed with that. But I thought I'll allow it. That tracksuit makes me think I'll allow it. Very good in that. Steps in the ring, does a bit of, wait a second, ref, don't ring the bell yet. I need everyone to look at me so I can do my poses and stuff. Mugs for the camera. And then he takes his time taking his jacket off. The bell rings, and he take jacket off. He gets rolled up by Apollo Crews and pinned in 3 seconds. What the hell was this?
More of a crucifix, actually. Well, put it this way, he's not headlining WrestleMania anytime soon.
No.
I saw this on X/Twitter before I watched it. I then watched it, and I saw the takes before I had to really echo them. Actually, I'm not going to echo them at all.
Okay.
all the takes I read were, is Vince McMahon back? This is very, very, very Vince build.
It is, isn't it?
But as I've said quite often, you can kill the man, but not the ideas. So this felt like a dumb stunt, a punishment almost. It really feels like they're doing... It wouldn't be surprising if there was a story to emerge that they don't like his attitude, Giovanni Vinci's, or they feel like he's got ideas above his station, or that they want a punishment book him because he is simply too good to cast as a comedy character.
Yeah.
He can have anyone do this sort of shtick. This is sort of the realm of Pretty Deadly. And there's a rule for this in pro wrestling.
Yes.
There really is. And I don't want that to get lost amid this. The temptation is, just to go, WWE, rubbish, whatever. There is a role to play a comedic mid-card goober who can, do this sort of thing, and it's a laugh, and, it's like physical comedy or whatever. Giovanni Vinci is so good at pro wrestling. Like, he's so incredible. This is just completely completely beyond him. But back to the take of Vince back. You can kill the man and not the idea. People forget that Levesque sat under the learning tree of Vince McMahon for a quarter of a century. And more to the point, they have very, very similar senses of humor. I always remember a story because I think it's a story that says a lot about Triple H. I don't know the man. I don't. But from what I think I know of the man, this backstage anecdote sums him up rather neatly. So it's... During the Attitude Era, I'm not convinced at this point that Levesque has got the power that he eventually sort of seized. But certainly he was in that inner sanctum. I mean, he, was close enough to it before he was even, about a good 3 years before he was over, or 2.5 years before he was even over, by suggesting to Vince himself, why don't we just screw him? In connection with the Montreal Screwjob, he's always had the ear, he's always been next to the conversations, even before he could outright influence them directly. And there's a story where Gerald Briscoe famously has an incredibly weak stomach to the point where anything that involves bodily fluids, functions, whatever, just literally turns his stomach and he will be sick. There was some segment or other where Vince McMahon, portraying the Mr. McMahon character during the Attitude Era, was wearing khakis and he had an accident and they had to film him up the waist and then everyone was laughing. The boss has just done that. You can imagine if you're that lot, you'd find it very funny. Vince just disposes of the khakis, soiled khaki trousers, backstage. Paul Levesque picks them up and just starts to terrorize Gerald Briscoe. Don't laugh, it's not funny.
I'm not laughing.
And Briscoe's genuinely on the verge of being sick because he can't deal with this sort of thing. He's got just an aversion to it. And Levesque, being that sort of toxic guy with a puerile sense of humor, God knows he talks about cocks all the time. Remember 2006 and it was cock, cock, cock. Who would do that? Yeah. Who would even do that? And he gets the trousers and he chases Briscoe around backstage. So one of two things has happened here. And I think it sort of highlights how this isn't necessarily an aberration in his sense of humor and all the rest of it. He either shares a very puerile sense of humor and a stupid sense of humor with Vince McMahon, hence this segment, or he pretended to. Maybe he's got a really sophisticated sense of humor, right? Maybe he enjoys the works of Oscar Wilde, right? But he pretended to have that kind of sense of humor, to better appeal to Vince, to suck up to him, to be sycophantic, so he could one day worm his way into his affections in the corridors of power and all the rest of it. It's Occam's razor, puerile sense of humor, and this sort of thing, when it happens on WWE TV, way more rarely than it used to, it doesn't surprise me one bit.
I often sit here and bang the drum for WWE, and I say, no, let this sort of thing play out. They're going somewhere with this. I completely agree with you on this one. I get it, like you say, there is a role for this to be played by someone. Pretty Deadly's a perfect example for that sort of thing.
Chelsea Green can do this sort of thing.
You're right. That's the thing I immediately thought of was the flashbacks to when it was promote this guy, promote this guy, promote this guy, promote this guy. Debut, actually just bury him straight away out the gate or give him a stupid gimmick or whatever. Yeah. And I'm not going to cry too many tears for the Funkasaurus, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's Giovanni Vinci. He's great. We worried about him when the rest of Imperium went up to the main roster, and he embraced this gimmick and had fun with it in NXT. And then, it was just so surreal, this, because I thought, okay, you don't want to do the photos thing, weird, but fine, whatever. And then you can just sort of sense it happening. And I was like, it's either echoes of when Vince used to be in charge and he'd just change his mind on someone on the day and be bury him in 3 seconds.
It's a mean-spirited sort of deal.
Or that weird bit with the changeover. It's this person was really popular with Vince, but Triple H doesn't like him, so they're suddenly going to become crap. I'm baffled by this, and I don't think it benefits it. There's nothing that can come out of this, in my opinion. It's very rare that I say this with WWE. There's nothing that can come out of this that is going to be better than if he'd just come in and win. Even if he'd come in, had a match. I know it's only Apollo Crews. Had a match with Apollo Crews and then just lost, for whatever reason. If he'd had a match, at least you could be like, well, he's showcasing his skills, but he's just unlucky and he's going to go in this losing streak or whatever. This was just pointless.
It seems pointless, It is different. It is different. I don't think it's as different as some make out, but it is different. It's probably better. In fact, it's loads better. He might come out the other side of this. They might, subvert it. It just seemed odd. It's definitely like under the other regime, you'd watch this and you think, RIP your career.
Yes, exactly.
I don't quite think it's like that. Maybe they are going somewhere with it.
If bad start.
Yeah, if nothing else, it's tremendously miscast and better than this.
Chelsea Green is back down is backstage in the SmackDown GM's office. Forget what his name is now. But then Michin walks in. Green calls her trash. Michin talks about her getting a knee to the face on NXT last week. And the SmackDown GM books a match between the two of them later, and Green's upset by this.
That's our job.
Triple threat next. Grayson Bloody Waller, Austin Theory, and Kevin Owens. There's some sports guy in the crowd who got involved in this match during the picture-in-picture. But as a result, Grayson Bloody Waller comes out wearing a Florida Panthers jersey. Owens beats both of them up early on. They eventually team up and fight back and seem to be setting to put him up through a table. But Owens gets out of it and powerbombs Waller through the table to take us to a break. When we come back, Owens still fighting the both of them. Clotheslines Theory hits a senton on him. It's a cannonball, goes up top, lands a swanton, covers, but Waller finally recovers from the bit with the sports guy in the break and breaks up the pin. Beats up Owens, runs into a right hand though. Theory comes back with a rolling blockbuster and Grayson Waller tries to steal the pin. Theory breaks up like, what the hell are you doing? But they put the differences aside for now at least and team up to work him over in the corner. He comes back, though, hits a rolling senton on Theory. Waller this time breaks up the pinfall between those two. And then Owens does that awesome suplex things that he does from the second rope. And this time Theory breaks up the pinfall. But Theory gets up, turns around, straight into a stunner from Kevin Owens. 1, 2, 3. Post-match, Waller attacks Owens. Theory thinks about it and then joins in, hits an 8-10 down on him. And Waller hits that rolling flatliner of his to stand tall and set up this tag match for next week.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this was contrived. It's not the way I like stories to be told. It's just not my preference. Away from how I like these things to be told, I thought this was contrived. You could see every single beat before it even happened. I'm a bit nauseous, I had a bit of drink over the weekend and my body, my pitiful late 30s, we're all in our 30s, body just has failed miserably to deal with it. Yeah, I just thought this was contrived. And what have I written down?
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe it got a little bit hyperbolic here. Because I have written down, total waste of my time. Triple threat : contrived and Theory isn't getting over as a babyface. Total waste of my time. Did we not learn after a decade and change of Dolph Ziggler that being good at bumping isn't a ticket to the top? That's what
does take a stunner really well.
That's the thing, yeah. He takes a stunner incredibly well. Almost to the point of parody / farce, but you've got to respect that athletic leap. I mean, I can't do that.
No.
It's very, very impressive and striking, but the idea that Theory getting over as a babyface, I continue to not see it. I continue to not see it. The only time I have seen an iota of personality within Austin Theory was when he was playing a dumbass in NXT in The Way. That was it.
Yeah, you're right.
He's the only thing he can possibly do. And to be fair, A-Town Down Under, a somewhat decent prelim tag team, comedy heels. He's got that smarmy aspect to him, that quality. I can never, ever imagine. I know they're plotting it in this way, but you don't have to buy the plotting. I can never imagine having a rooting interest in Austin Theory. And again, the idea that he can take an incredible bump for the stunner, like, it doesn't make him a star in waiting. If anything, it makes him look like he's good at doing jobs. That was
Grayson Waller's a far better heel.
Yes, indeed. But that was always the issue with Ziggler, where because he gets his ass kicked in a pretty entertaining way, that is less likely for me to buy him as a winner. He's just a polished, blandly handsome guy with very little charisma, athletically gifted. I can never imagine this guy babyfacing WrestleMania.
No.
Headlining WrestleMania, ever.
Tell you who else took a really good stunner. Scott Hall. I loved his sell at Mania.
You know, can be a boring bastard.
Go on.
You know, took the best stunner of all time.
Who's that?
It was Bret Hart. Because what happened was The Rock changed the game, and he did it as a piss take.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to pop Austin because they had the bets about if I can make you corpse by selling the stunner in this ridiculous way that was never intended to be sold. If I can get you to crack on live TV, you have to buy me a beer. And if I fail, I'll get you it. So it started as had really been a joke, and now it's just that is the way these things get sold. And I'm sorry if this isn't, your little wacky SmackDown podcast. Bret Hart sold it as if his jaw and his teeth had been shattered.
Yeah.
God, Bret was the best.
When you tried to do it on your mate and they didn't know what they were doing, you just bang! God, that could really hurt. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
We get a vignette reminding us of the history between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, and then Cole talks about being on Fox for 5 years. Corey Graves sort of echoes the sentiments. Oh, what a few years it's been.
Cheers, guys. See you later, guys.
And we got a nice video recap. I did think it was funny. I mentioned this to Andy on the news today. The video recap was like, SmackDown debuted on Fox 5 years ago. The Rock was there. Becky Lynch was there. And then some other stuff happened for a few years, and then Triple H took over. Look at all the awesome stuff that happened. I did rewatch, I will say, the Sami Zayn t-shirt angle.
God.
Was that one of your favourite times of SmackDown on Fox? The take your shirt off?
Yeah, absolutely. The guy felt so vulnerable and pitiful and helpless, and it felt like he was in real danger. He just felt so belittled.
Jay's so good in that segment as well.
Yeah, I preferred that to the big Royal Rumble turn. I thought there was such a feeling of don't. Like, you're really humiliating this dude. Like, don't you dickheads. When we're all in our 30s. When you're 38, 39 in about 2 weeks, you watch it and you don't really feel. It takes a lot to get you to feel. When they were ripping that t-shirt off Sami Zayn, I was like, you dicks. Like, you're embarrassing him, and I hate you for it. Like, that's the most I've ever felt about the Bloodline, realistically. Such a phenomenally well done thing. Sami Zayn, I know a lot of people know this already. Years from now, he was instrumental in the Bloodline actually being good.
That's part of it, yeah. Out comes L.A. Knight. Hits him with a "let me talk to you." Crowd loving him, obviously. Talks about being 30 days into his US title reign, 2 successful title defenses. Everyone's coming for the title. He's interrupted by Carmelo Hayes, who talks about, 2 successful title defenses, but I've got 2 wins over Andrade, and I steal the show every week. I should be in line for a US title shot. And Knight's like, well, I just want to point out that I did 2 title defenses in a month. That's the same as the previous champ in the last 10 months. But he's not worried about having the match of the night. All he cares about is winning. That brings out Andrade, who says, well, Melo, it's 2-2. We're even. I've beaten you twice. Carmelo says, nobody remembers that. Andrade says, not only do I remember, everyone else does too. I deserve a title shot at LA Knight's title. LA Knight basically says, look, I haven't got time to listen to you two argue. Just sort it out between the two of you. Andrade reminds him that he was once US champion. Talks in Spanish, and Knight says, I don't understand a word you're saying, but you need to check your tone. It all gets physical. People bump into each other. And LA Knight hits the blunt force trauma on Andrade. And then I really like this Melo character. Gets in Andrade. He got you dickhead. He's taunting him. And of course, LA Knight goes to leave. And he's like, actually, doubles back. BFT for Melo as well.
I think the idea that I'm not expected to take Melo seriously is the I am him. It was a lot of anti-show don't tell with Melo, particularly during NXT. Showing us a little bit more has really helped that character.
This series with Andrade has been really enjoyable.
I've seen some of the matches, not all of them.
Because both of his wins have come through shenanigans. Certainly the second one where I think it was an exposed turnbuckle Andrade gets dropped on. I think it's the 5th match next week, maybe. Andrade Melo 5. Solo Sikoa versus Cody in Steel Cage, and this thing we're about to get to with Owens and
yeah, bit of rare praise for SmackDown for me. It's still going on. I guess that's fine. It just feels like, in totality, there's a lot that is still going on. This has been rumbling on for quite some time. But to WWE's credit, like, it started off as the least interesting premise for a feud ever. They were talking about who was the least impressive in Money in the Bank. You or me, or I was the most impressive guy who didn't win.
No.
Like, well, he didn't win. What are you bragging about?
It just felt like they were just keeping them busy, just having them wrestle each other.
It did.
Like a house show circuit sort of thing.
But it's actually worked.
And they've learned from it. They've developed the match as a result. Yeah, good stuff.
No, I think this has been good stuff. And it's what's strange about this is there's an actual sporting approach to it. Like, they want to compete against each other and vanquish the competition and then ascend to this mid-card title picture. It's almost like this is how wrestling works.
So I mentioned it earlier. Waller and Theory are backstage, and they run into the SmackDown GM, can't remember what his name is, and ask for a tag match. The two of them versus Owens and a partner of Owens' choice. We will preview that, of course, on Friday. I'll get Hamlet's guesses as to who that could possibly be.
If he's in, you'll get them.
If he bothers to show up. Then we got Michin versus Chelsea Green. They sell the fact that obviously Michin's got dodgy ribs. Understandable considering what Nia Jax did to finish that match against her last week. But Michin mostly controls. Chelsea targets the ribs though. And of course, Piper Niven is on the outside. And as Michin sets up for a finisher, Piper jumps on the apron. But Michin carries on, still in control. Green gets knocked to the outside. Michin hits a suicide dive onto her, chucks her back in. But Chelsea takes the ref. Niven distracts Michin, and Green kicks Michin off the apron, takes the ref again, and Niven hits a running senton onto her, chucks her back in. And of course, Green hits the unpretty her for the 1-2-3.
Yeah, this wasn't a standout match or anything of the sort, but a few moments they kicked each other's ass.
Yeah.
I like Chelsea Green's drop kick.
Yeah.
Feels like she puts everything behind it.
There is a version of events, and I don't know where or when it happens, that I see Chelsea Green winning the world title.
Honestly, I'm a fan. I am a fan. I think her character works great. Some of her line reads, I think, are sensational. Like, nothing short of. Like, I actually really like Chelsea Green.
I love the Money in the Bank bump.
I love the Money in the Bank bump. I think she's a good TV presence. She was on NXT, wherever you get your podcast from, last week, and she talked about how much she loves her fans, but not all of them. Some of them are creepy.
This thing could be her.
Yeah, she's just got something. And she's not just one-dimensional. She can go.
Yeah.
You ever seen her versus Pentagon?
No.
Lucha Underground.
I need to watch this.
You need to watch it. You need to watch it.
Everyone says to me, Lucha Underground would be my kind of show.
Yeah. She can go when she wants. A bit older now, but she can still go. But she's portraying a comedy character, which is why, to her credit, she doesn't tell you she can go yet because she's meant to be playing someone who can't really and is in over her head, doesn't really want to do it and needs help. But no, I'm with you. With the right story, they can make something from Chelsea Green. They seem to really like writing for her as well, which is weird because she's a woman.
Speaking of which, we get a video recap in the tag title win for Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair at Bash in Berlin. And then... they confirm all the matches for next week's show.
Can I check my notes as you talk?
Okay. Byron Saxton chats.
Definitely not checking Twitter or nothing like that.
I was going to say any signings. It's Windows closed now,
Windows closed now. We signed nobody.
Byron Saxton. I think we got 10 in the end, perhaps.
Just the 10.
Just the 10. Jesus. Narrow 2-1 win over Grimsby on Saturday.
Oh, you won?
Despite the referees. Honestly, I thought moving up a league, they'd get better. I think they've got worse somehow. Absolutely atrocious, the level of refereeing at League 2. Shameful. One of our players, second yellow for, I don't know, touching another player, which I think you need to barge into people when you're on a football pitch, but apparently Darren Oldacre can't do it.
Where are you in the league?
About 8th, I think.
That's not bad.
Yeah, 2 wins, 1 draw, maybe 2 losses, perhaps.
Considering you've just been promoted.
That doesn't make sense in terms of points. No, maybe it does actually. I can't remember.
You just need to solidify your position in the league, survive.
Yeah, just staying up would be the priority. But I don't think we can aim for higher up. We've got a really good squad. We've got a player who should not be playing for us, who's come from a championship team. And I saw him score at the weekend. he's too good for this level. So just give the ball to him.
Did you go? Did you?
No, I didn't. But I watched all the highlights. I do need to go to more games this season. Shout out to the guys at Lean Gate Valves. We'll maybe be hitting you up. We do need to organise. Me and Hamflet have talked about this, but I need to circle you in on this. We need to do a Dadley Boys trip to Chesterfield to go and watch the Mighty Fire Rights. Yeah. And then your man from Lean Gate Valves, Lee, a good friend of ours, says he's going to take us out on the town.
We'll do it.
I'll be in touch. Anyway, Byron Saxton chats to the babyface teams of DIY and Street Profits before their main event. They say, look, we've got our issues with each other. We both want to win. But we've got a lot of respect for each other, and we bloody hate the bloodline and how they're holding the tag titles hostage. Street Profits like, we've been here before, mate. But they basically agree to team up, work together to defeat the bloodline, which should all be well and good if they didn't have Jacob Fatu, basically, because the main event was the bloodline versus the Street Profits and DIY, the big brawl to start things off. And the babyfaces actually do well. They're in control. But, as I mentioned, then Jacob Fatu gets involved, and that's, a difference maker. He got a blind tag. He just elbowed the crap out of Tommaso Ciampa. He tags in properly. He tags in Sikoa, and Sikoa chucks Ciampa into the commentary table to take us to a break. When we come back, Ciampa's still in trouble, but he kicks Sikoa, and he double tags Dawkins and Gargano. The referee has no one has any idea who's the illegal man, so they just hit a bunch of double team moves on Solo Sikoa. It all breaks down. Fords hits that awesome splash of his onto Jacob Fatu on the outside. Gargano takes out Tonga Loa. Dawkins hit a neck breaker on Solo Sikoa. Ciampa comes back in, but Sikoa catches him and slams him for a good near fall. But Ciampa comes back, goes up top, and suplexes. I think it was Tonga Loa. It might have been Tama Tonga. I do apologise. Everyone's on the outside, basically, and there's a big suplex onto them to get a great big pop from the crowd. Ford tags back in, hits a 450 splash on Tonga, but Jacob Fatu decides enough is enough. He comes in, breaks it up, sends Ford into the ring post, drags Tonga to the corner, and then just kills all of the baby faces. He drags him to the corner, tags himself in, kills everyone. He hits an impaler on Montez Ford, and then bows to the tribal chief, brings in Solo Sikoa, who hits 2 Samoan spikes on Montez Ford for the 1-2-3. The bloodline dominating, courtesy of Jacob Fatu.
I guess there's a sense that they've protected Montez Ford during the finish, but my God, this dude was at one point the next breakout star in the promotion, and it just isn't happening. And I think that's a goddamn shame. I've written down in my notes something to the effect of, thank God for Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu. The guy's an absolute force of nature. He's terrifying. They love him as well. You can tell by the way he's protected. They do a phenomenal job of preserving his aura, which is no small feat considering that he's playing, for now, second fiddle to Solo Sikoa.
Presumably still carrying somewhat of an injury to that ankle of his.
It's just, he's an incredible, explosive, scary dude. And they have done very, very well to preserve that mystique. It just, everyone looks like they're in trouble.
Yeah.
They just look like you're doomed if you're trying to step.
When Cody said, I want to face you, I was like, don't do that, Cody, you'll lose the title.
Yeah. It's one of the, it's just like, you cannot have Solo Sikoa in this slot. This thing has to end. They have to do the Roman Solo match. Do you think they don't really have to do anything so red hot. You know what I was thinking? I say things like, oh, they have to. They don't have to do anything. They're so red hot at the minute.
Yeah.
Like, it's embarrassing how much more Jacob Fatu has about him than Solo Sikoa. It's almost canon. It's almost canon at this point, which is not ideal because I think they want to do a match between Solo and Roman.
Do you think there's more likelihood now that they do Jacob Fatu versus Roman at WrestleMania?
More than Solo versus Roman, certainly. You know what? I had a big point. Yes, I remember the point I was going to make. With this Cody babyface run, I'm not saying he's going to be anywhere near as big as the person I'm going to compare him to in terms of mainstream recognition or wherever. Certainly, I think in terms of the attendances, he's up there, that he pulls to WWE shows. Not the ratings, but it's a different time. The Rock... in 1999.
Sorry, it's just muscle memory, that.
WWE knew that Austin was working hurt, but it was like an even bigger part of wrestling than it is now. It still happens. I think it happens too much, but
I agree.
Different story, different conversation, different podcast. They probably didn't know the extent to it until it came to Survivor Series 1999. And I was like, oh, God, he needs surgery. He's going to be out for a year. That sucks.
Still advertising for Survivor Series.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I was very annoyed. I used to stay up late to watch them, I was very, very pissed off.
A fair exchange.
Big shut up, man. Big show.
I love it.
They couldn't have known the severity of the injury. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have had The Rock work Mr. Ass and British Bulldog in the span of a couple of months. And yet, like Mr. Ass, not a solo star. British Bulldog was in, quite frankly, bleak condition. I mean, the dude was purple. He could barely move. It was like, I remember even at the time when, I knew that there was a drug epidemic in wrestling without really getting how serious it was. This is before the relentless wave of wrestler deaths. Like, even at the time, I remember watching Bulldog and thinking something is seriously wrong with that man.
People don't look like that.
Yeah, something is seriously wrong with that man.
And it's not just because he's bizarre.
No. Something was seriously wrong with him, and don't trivialize it, Wilbourn, for Christ's sake.
Whenever I think of British Bulldog, I know
you do.
That's because I'm bizarre.
I know. And The Rock was just like, well, doesn't matter who I'm working, I'm as over as anyone's ever been, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is a parallel to this Cody Rhodes run. He cannot be, he can. He's doing it. Spend this long with Solo Sikoa, who's not good, and yet he's still ridiculously over. If anything, like, it's probably, like, it doesn't make for good TV. It doesn't make for, like, compelling, like, stakes in terms of the matches, because you just don't expect Solo to win this title. That's how bad he is. He's just aggressively mediocre and completely in the wrong spot, basically. But that's the nicest thing I can say about Cody Rhodes, is he must be white hot, forever over, because, my God, look at what he's trying to look what they're trying to make him do.
See, I disagree that he's in the wrong spot. I think you're right. I think if you perceive him as someone who's going to take the mantle on in the bloodline, then yes, he's in the wrong spot. But I think he's, whether by intention or, like you say, just not really hitting the heights that they had hoped for him, like, he is this complete pretender of a tribal chief. And I am so excited for that moment. We talked about the reaction when Sami Zayn gets a new T-shirt. That moment when Jacob Fatu decides, no, you're not my tribal chief, actually. Do you know who is? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I don't point at microphone there. But Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is going to be an unbelievable moment. But yeah, I completely agree that Jacob Fatu is the star of the bloodline right now.
He is. They need him. Well, that's the end of the SmackDown review, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was the SmackDown review. Let's get my square white hand-foot head.
Hang on, which featured the bloodline dominating Bayley and Tiffany Stratton. A huge title match announced for next week. Andrade and Mello challenging LA Knight. And Giovanni Vinci losing in 3 seconds.
The SmackDown review. It's got all this and so much more.
I'll see you soon.